we actually missed the entire day, and we are going to get an idea of what happened. So I'm going to speed through this. By the way, again, tomorrow I'm going to be streaming early. I apologize for the late stream today. We are going to be on time tomorrow, and I sincerely apologize. Okay? Cool. So let me actually get to the main things, right? By the way, I didn't read everything that happened, but I'm going to try to speed through it instead of lollygagging like what we do when we're waiting for tweets. Okay? Cool. So basically, in the morning, the jury got brought in. The judge says, let's address this. And, every day in the morning, they're addressing things that are issues that have been brought up or either filed in the docket by the prosecutor or by the defense team, right? So now they want to talk about something else. They said, I think they're talking about something they were talking about yesterday. They're saying there's a message that talked about Mr. Ventura's state of mind. Dawson says that's a problem with not being able to recall Ms. Ventura as a witness. So it looks like, they're still focusing a lot of the trial, well, not a lot of the entire trial, on this one victim, Cassie. Apparently there's going to be another victim we ain't see yet. And they're now trying to introduce some other shit. Now, here's the problem, right? And this is the government's ran into this problem too. If you don't know, let's go to Shade Room. We'll be able to see. Today, Cassie Ventura and Alex Fine welcomed their newborn child, okay? She just gave birth, right? And what that means is that, number one, not only is she unable to retake the stand, it's going to affect the government. Let me just look it up. Cassie gave birth. Yes. So she gave birth to her third baby today. Okay. Remember, the reason why the judge denied Diddy's team a extension to start the trial was because the prosecutor has said our main witness is expecting a child. If we don't do it in the next month, we're going to have to wait probably 5 to 6 months. Again, you have to be very reasonable to your main witness. She's going to have a kid. She's going to have to breastfeed. She's also going to be going through things. She's a woman. Get it? So they wanted to do it before. So they denied Diddy the extension. And here's the thing, though, because it does hurt the prosecutor somewhat. Thus far, we're in week 3. Day 2. This is the 11th day of trial. They're only talking about this one victim, Cassie. Now, because everything is still concerning her story, and yes, she did testify, how it works in court is that if people are testifying or there's additional people who are either corroborating or you're still bringing up stuff about that witness might need to be recalled to clarify. Cassie and her lawyers told the government, I'm going there one time and one time only. So she's just given birth. She does not plan to be a part of the trial, and the government has told the judge, we don't plan to bring her back. So because that's the case, Diddy's lawyers are taking that and they're saying, well, y'all can't use any arguments that we would need to require her to come back. I think that's a shrewd move. Hey, a normal witness, we could call her back. Cassie, we can't call her back, right? Because she just gave birth. So they're trying to carve out all these arguments that can't be made by the government because they're saying, if you make that argument, we should be able to call her back. Fuck pregnancy. If we can't call her back, it's unfair for Diddy. The prosecutor who made the decision to keep the trial on this schedule, they either have to suspend the trial, which, by the way, could completely turn to a mistrial because you're going to lose jurors, this, that, and third, witnesses might. They're trying to get to the conclusion of the trial. So they have to deal with these morning sessions where the judge is contemplating whether these arguments or these things should be shown because Cassie cannot take the stand again. Okay? All right. So, they're talking about it. Donaldson, who's Combs' lawyer, that's the problem. We can't call back Miss Ventura. AUSA says, well, Mr. Nashville quoted, he's making me freak off on my birthday. She didn't want to go. Combs Alexander Shapiro, by the way, this is the appellate lawyer, says, a spouse might say he's making me go into the Rangers game. I'd rather not. So the judge says, you could have cross-examined Ventura about this. And the judge says, every day I'm getting these letters. These issues should be raised pre-trial motions. Yeah. So looks like he handles it somehow. It's not really clear how he really rules, even though it looked like he may have went to the side of the prosecutors on this one. They bring the jury in. AUSA says the governor calls LAPD officer Christopher Ignacio. Okay. AUSA says, what's a radio call? It says someone calls 911. It gets sent to the next available LAPD unit on duty. AUSA says on December 22nd, 2011, what was your shift? It says 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I was in a marked police vehicle. AUSA says, what do you remember? It says, well, I got a call around 8 a.m. with a code 3 with lights and sirens to 8925 Hollywood Hills Road. So what did you find there? He says, an Escalade. Ignacio says, I memorized the license plate. He says, why? He said, I thought it could be involved in a crime the way it left as soon as we got there. AUSA says, well, why didn't you go after it? He said, well, we didn't have a crime yet. The front door was unlocked. We went in. Remember, let me just get you guys up to speed. What happens is, remember, they call the cops, or I forgot who called the cops. I think it was Kid Cudi. They call the cops. Kid Cudi speeds off, right? Well, Kid Cudi had got there later. But, yeah, Kid Cudi had sped off, and then the car had sped off behind him, which is Diddy's in the Escalade. They had called the cops before, so the cops got there while they're both leaving. Remember, they said they chased Cudi for a while. Cudi gets away. Cudi was in the Porsche that eventually got burned up or blown up, right? Cool. So it says, okay, so they went in. They get to the house. The door's unlocked. They go in. And so what did you see? High-end watches, purses, some wrapped, some unwrapped. 2 detectives showed up. When we came out, I saw the same black Escalade now driving down the hill. I said, then what? He said, I then seen Mr. Mescudi arrive in a Porsche. So it looked like Kid Cudi skirted out, lost the Escalade, which Diddy's in, with Capricorn Clark, and he has a gun on his lap. Obviously, it's his neighborhood. He knows a little bit better. He gets away. He probably saw the cop, like, coming to his house, and then he probably doubles back around because the cops are there. Diddy ain't that dumb. He not going to kill you in front of the cops, right? Cool. So did you run the plate of the Escalade? It says, yeah, it came back to Bad Boy Records. AUSA says no further questions. Wow, really quick. Justice cross-examination, Brian Steele is back in. Now, chat, remember, Brian Steele did the first cross on the security guard. Remember Flores, the security guard at Intercontinental who came out, who was breaking up the fight between Diddy and Cassie, and supposedly there was a freak-off going in the room? He did a good job of basically saying, yo, you're testifying to a bunch of shit you ain't even writing a report, and the report is going to be from 10 years ago. How the fuck you remember shit from 10 years ago now that you ain't writing a report, nigga? What the fuck? And then basically was also said a few things to say like, hey, listen, you know, did you show the video to your wife? I think Brian Steele did well on the first person. Brian Steele's back in again, okay? Check him back in the game. Cool. So look like here we could safely assume they got Brian Steele not to handle any of the women who might be assistants or victims. They got Brian Steele to handle authorities, okay? So any authorities that take the stand, police officers, security guards, he's going to be the guy. Remember, Brian Steele, we all know, that's YSL Steele. He's a bulldog. He's going at it. We don't know if he has that side of, oh, okay. Like, you remember what Estavio did with Cassie? Like, in the middle of the question, she says, you're a very adorable woman. And she gave her a compliment, but really just to kind of like ease everything in. And then also, and pause on that, and also to say, well, maybe your attractiveness in this, like, she made a good point afterwards. I'm not going to lie. Anyway, so cool. So now Brian Steele gets up. He says, yo, this was 13 years ago, right? Ignacio says yes. Steele says, did you read your partner's report? Ignacio says yes. Steele says, the streets, are there dead ends? Ignacio says, yeah, according to the map. Steele says, damn, it's a beautiful neighborhood, right? A cul-de-sac? By the way, anytime they do that, they're about to follow up with some shit. Anytime they give a compliment, it's about to follow up with some shit. Ignacio says, sure. Steele says, so wait. You show up, y'all see a car leaving, but y'all ain't follow the car, right? He says, right, we ain't follow the car. So did you see a Porsche? They said they didn't see a Porsche. Remember, the Porsche sped out first. They're like, that was Cuddy. Spin this bitch around. Follow this bitch ass nigga. We gonna kill that crop top wearing ass nigga, man. Fucking my bitch, right? So look like by the time when the cops come, they don't even see the first car. They just see Escalade speeding up to try to catch with the Porsche. Steele says, do you know the definition of kidnapping? AUSA says objection. Judge says sustained. Steele says, were you told the homeowner was in the house shortly before you and your partner got there? AUSA says objection again. Judge says overruled. It says, the door was unlocked, right? Answer was yes. Steele says, there was no furniture upended, right? Ignacio says no. Steele says, yo, you called it a trespass, not a burglary, right? Because AUSA says objection. The judge says, I think sustained. Steele says no report on theft. Now, let me explain that. I think this is kind of law pretty much universally. The difference between burglary and trespassing is that burglary is you break in with the intent to take something. Okay? To take something or vandalize. Trespass would be you're in a area that you were not permitted to be in, but there is no proof that you were there to do another crime. So burglary is a two-step crime. Entering a residence or going into an area that says you can't go in there, like if they have a sign that says, don't come beyond this point. If you walk into that area and you get caught in that area, that's trespassing. If you walk into that area and you look into, oh shit, I see like a fucking shopping cart, let me go take the shopping cart, that's technically burglary. So just to give you the definition on that. Cool. All right, it's an objection. It says, I think sustained. It says no report of theft. It says no. So basically, there was no report that there was something being stolen or maybe someone was trying to steal something. So the cops were probably in a tough decision. Like they probably had to charge it as, or probably write it up as a possible trespass because things were there and not taken, right? Steele says, if you thought there was a gun in the Escalade, you could have put out a bolo, right? I don't know what a bolo is, but I'm guessing it would be something where everybody responds type shit. AO says objection. Justice overruled. Steele say you didn't, right? Ignacio says right. So basically they're saying they had no idea that Diddy or whoever was in the vehicle had a gun. Steele says, any mention of security cameras? Ignacio says, I saw some. Steele says, Kid Cudi wasn't hyperventilating, right? Ignacio says he was tense, I'd say. Steele says, did you search his Porsche? Ignacio says no. Steele says it was 8:20 a.m., not 6:20 a.m., right? Ignacio says right. Steele says nothing further. So it looked like they're pointing out, hey, listen, you didn't see Diddy. You didn't know he had a gun. And Brian Steele's pushing this line of, this is hearsay. This is hearsay. Did you get a report that he had a gun? No. Did you see something taken? No. That's why it's just trespassing. So you don't know if it's my client. That's what he was trying to end it. And then he pointed out one discrepancy on the report. Looked like they wrote it up as 6:30 a.m. It was actually 8:20 a.m. Okay? So they said nothing further. They do a redirect. AUSA says, we're not doing a redirect, okay? They then call a arson investigator. Okay, so this is the LA arson investigator, Lance Jimenez. He says, I'll place a binder in front. The witness then takes a stand and says, yo, listen, man, how many fires have you investigated? Jimenez says, yo, well, about 100 a year. Everything between mansions to dumpster fires. LA is pretty crazy. AUSA says, yo, did you respond as an expert to a auto fire at 8925 Hollywood Hills Road? Jimenez says, yes. There was a cut in the roof of a Porsche. AUSA says, but what about inside the Porsche? Jimenez says, oh, there were burn patterns inside. He said, what about any items? He said, well, there was a bottle on the front seat. Jimenez then says, there was a handkerchief that was burned. There was a lighter on the ground. AUSA says, what hypothesis did you draw? Jimenez says, well, I thought it was a Molotov cocktail. AUSA says, how did you think it got in? Jimenez says, I think somebody lit it, cut the roof, and dropped it in. AUSA says, let me show you some photos. Sorry. This is the black Porsche that was burned, right? He says, yes. He says, what type of bottle was used? He says, it was an Old English 800 malt liquor bottle. What the fuck? Who the hell's drinking that? I thought it, chat, you know what I was thinking? The whole time I'm thinking it's a Ciroc bottle. A little Ciroc bottle with a motherfucking handkerchief. The handkerchief that says bad boy, take that, with gasoline in there. That's the Molotov cocktail, but obviously that would be like a clear giveaway, right? Okay, so it's a bottle like this. I would assume this one. Okay. It says, and the wick, it says, it was a designer type scarf. You got to make the Molotov cocktail with a little bit of Louis V, man. Come on, man. Shout out to Diddy. It was silky, and in my opinion, this was targeted. AUSA says there's a partial DNA profile. Was it consistent with a female contributor? Jimenez says, I was told that. AUSA says, do you know what it means? Jimenez says, no. Now, this is important. They argued about this point before. The AUSA wants to bring in this expert to basically say, we found DNA. So Diddy's defense team clearly has they've played their hand a little bit to say, we're going to say, how are you accusing Diddy when the DNA found on there is a woman? But the AUSA is saying, we want to bring in an expert. And the expert could properly say, or, analyze and be like, yeah, the contributor was a female, but it doesn't mean based on what else we found, it wasn't complete DNAs. It could have been men there too. Like, they had to leave the window open. Diddy's team want to say, ain't no window open. Y'all found a female ain't Diddy. Shut the fuck up, right? So that's why the AUSA is asking the question to say, do you know what it means? The guy's going to say no, and then there's going to say, oh, but we had someone else, a DNA expert, analyze it. And then once you do that, it becomes evidentiary. Then you could bring that person in, right? AUSA says, do you know if it's possible to touch an item without leaving DNA? Defense says objection. Remember, they're playing this cat and mouse game. They don't want the expert to get on the stand because the detective is not an expert. He cannot testify according to Rule 403 of the Federal Rules of Evidence. You can't have somebody give testimony to something that requires an expert without them being an expert. So he can't answer, the investigator can't answer anything about DNA shit, even if he kind of has an idea. He just can't answer it, right? So there's an objection. The judge sustains it because you can't answer that. He's not an expert. AUSA says, what happened to the print cards? Jimenez says they were destroyed in 2012. So on whose orders? Jimenez says someone in LAPD. AUSA says, not you or anyone on your team? Agnifilo says, I'm going to object to all of this. Can we have a sidebar? Now, this is very important, chat. This is very important. What this reveals is that the government knows that there was some foul play or some shit that happened in this investigation. Now, you could think either way you want to think. Whether Diddy's so powerful, he got somebody in the police department to destroy evidence, or some people that's either out to get Diddy or whatever, they destroyed evidence that could make him, evidence that would prove he's not guilty. They destroyed it. Whatever way you want to look at it, that's on you. So the AUSA is admitting, and if you wonder what a print card is, that's what would have the these samples of the fingerprints found at the scene. So they're saying it was destroyed. So basically, you can't do tests on the fingerprints anymore in this Diddy arson case. And AUSA says, how was it destroyed? It says someone in LAPD did it. So somebody that's working for the police destroys the evidence that could either prove Diddy's guilty or innocent. Look at it either way you want. And then the AUSA says, is this anyone on your team? Agnifilo says, I'm going to object to all this. The reason why he probably objects to all this, they're trying to leave it open for the jury to interpret that. When you said someone in LAPD, it could be your team. It could be you, right? So that's why they're objecting. Okay, they get a sidebar. They pretty much had a long sidebar. The judge says, jurors, we're trying to sync up. Why don't we take a break? So such a long thing. Remember, this is kind of explosive. They're basically saying that the cops have covered up or either trying to frame Diddy. So they're either covering up for Diddy or trying to frame Diddy. Whatever. Okay. So now it says Combs even exited as well. So maybe he went to go take a piss or some shit like that, right? he went to the holding cell. Agnifilo says, let me get him. Combs is brought back in. The judge says, Ms. Slavic, what was the purpose in getting into that? So the judge is actually scolding the prosecutors, right? He says, well, they're questioning the investigation. We're entitled to ask this. So they're realizing that this entire thing is Brian Steele questioning if this arson investigation actually even remotely pointed to Diddy, and how was this investigation done? So that's why they're saying they're trying to they're like, we're going to admit that or bring it on the record that the investigation was fucked up, but it wasn't on the behalf of the people who did the investigation, with somebody else. Cool. The judge says, when I heard the questions, I assumed there was going to be a line of cross-examinations about the fingerprint cards, like about the DNA, but that doesn't appear to be the case. So I'm thinking of telling the jurors to disregard. Agnifilo says, hey, listen, this is outrageous. Agnifilo says, we're considering what remedies to ask for. Let me speak with my colleagues. They implied that someone in this courtroom was responsible for the destruction of the fingerprints. So that's kind of what's kind of like, based on the testimony, is a reasonable way to deduce that they're almost saying that nigga Diddy had evidence destroyed. Can't make that type of, thing. The judge does a recess, so now they're taking a long-ass break. They then come back. The judge then says, my intent is to strike from the record any testimony about the fingerprint cards or destruction of them. I will note that only the answers were what the witnesses knew about the destruction. I sustained the objection to as if it was abnormal, okay? Alexandra Shapiro, the appellate lawyer, says, we're going to move for a mistrial at this time based on a prosecutorial misconduct that has occurred. So basically by saying, hey, listen, you brought up this thing that we had not planned because we had talked about this. They talk every after trial and before trial. We weren't going to get into this, but y'all try to bias this trial. Y'all got no evidence about the arson. That's what they're trying to say. Y'all got no evidence against the arson, and because we're questioning the investigation into the arson that y'all charged him with, y'all trying to insinuate that Diddy destroyed evidence without no proof. That is completely biased. That is prejudicial to Diddy and his freedom. So they move for a mistrial. By the way, very popular tactic by YSL Steele. What am I calling YSL? Brian Steele did that a lot during Young Thug's trial. He brought it up a lot. Like, he was like, yo, y'all fucked up here. Like, and he kept doing it to the point that, they said no, like, we're not going to grant the mistrial. But after a while, it becomes where remember, Young Thug got free because the judge scolded Paige Whitaker scolded the prosecutors like, yo, y'all are amateurs. Like, y'all can't do this shit right. So maybe he's trying to do the same thing here. Okay, cool. So Shapiro says, hey, listen, there's prosecutor misconduct happening. Says some prospective jurors said Mr. Combs could buy his way out. This type of conspiracy is out there and bought into. So it was agreed upon you can't allude to Diddy. If you can't prove it, don't allude to it. You can't allude to Diddy being able to pay his way out of stuff or destroy evidence, especially when it's evidence that only the LAPD could have destroyed, right? AUSA says it was Mr. Agnifilo. Never mind. It says they should have ended with when the fingerprint cards were destroyed, but they asked, did he authorize it? There's no way to unring this bell. The only proper remedy here is a mistrial. AUSA says that's absolutely unwarranted. AUSA says it was Agnifilo who wanted to inquire into the DNA, into the investigation. Your Honor, can just say that the jurors should not draw any inference from the destruction of the fingerprint cards. The judge says an application for mistrial is now denied. Again, even if it's denied, it's important that you made it, right? Because that's going to be a huge source of, appeal, right? Like, you're going to be able to appeal to say, look how they did this thing that you can't put the toothpaste back in the fucking tube, right? So the judge says, I sustained the objections when they were raised. The jurors have already been told the questions are not evidence. Shapiro says, Your Honor, could you tell the jurors that the questions were improper? AUSA says they weren't improper. You should say just disregard. Shapiro then says, and again, Shapiro's earning her money. I told you she's an appellate lawyer, but she's in this case to fight, tooth to the nails to fucking if it does go to appeal, that's where her real work's going to start. But she's fighting these small issues now. You got to fight everything, right? She says, well, will the court tell the jurors, okay, the answer shouldn't be considered? The judge says, well, I'll tell them that the questions and answers on the fingerprints are irrelevant to this case and should not be considered. Shapiro then says, thank you, Your Honor. So all right, everybody's come back in court. It says the jurors, the answers and the questions on the fingerprints are irrelevant to this case and should not be considered by you guys. Please proceed. The AUSA then says, did you interview the owner of the Porsche? Jimenez says, yeah, Scott Muscuddy. That's Kid Cudi. I did. It says, did you reach out to others? Jimenez says, I reached out to an assistant. I think her name was like Capricorn. Nifilo says, object. The judge says, rephrase. It says, who did you reach out to? It says, Capricorn, Clark, and Cassidy Ventura. AUSA says, did Capricorn respond or assist? Jimenez says, no. By the way, Capricorn had said that when the investigators reached out to her, she hung up abruptly. Okay? She hung up abruptly. What the fuck? Why did you send me this bullshit? What the fuck? Yo, chat. Is this real? My bad. I didn't want to pause it, but I just got sent this. Did Larry Hoover get pardoned? Nah, I told y'all Trump was the GOAT. I told y'all niggas, man. Man, I told y'all niggas, man. Trump the fucking GOAT, bro. Man, Obama wouldn't do no shit like this, man. Trump the fucking GOAT, bro. I been told y'all niggas he's the GOAT, bro. By the way, hey, chat. Y'all not gonna give me credit for the... Oh, young boy got pardoned too. Y'all not gonna give me credit for that? Y'all not gonna give me credit for that? Y'all not gonna give me credit for that. Chat, y'all not gonna give me credit. All right, hold on. You see? They whisper your accomplishment, they shout your failures. Y'all don't remember when I went down to Mar-a-Lago and I sat with Akademiks, young boy, Donald Trump Jr., and I brought up the case. Y'all don't remember this. Chat.
A lot of people are asking. There's a guy who's a beloved, he's just a misunderstood guy, actually. His name is NBA Youngboy. Okay. He's been on federal house arrest. He lives in Utah. He was on federal house arrest for like 2.5 years, which to me just sounds wrong. Like if
for what?
For gun possession. He basically shot a music video. They believe that they got a call that, hey, there were guys on a block that were shooting a video and they saw weapons. They pulled up.
So they don't even know?
The police showed up. No one was there. They grabbed one guy who happened to be his cameraman, and because he's a big name, they seen him on camera holding what they believe is a weapon, and they're like, well, we're going to give you charges for that. So he has federal charges for that.
But it could have been a prop. They don't even know?
It could have been a prop. And they've been...
Yo, chat. I'm not getting W's. I'm not getting W's. I'm not getting W's, chat. I told you. You heard. Hey, listen. It's a reason why Ye said, I voted for Trump, not Biden. You know I voted too. Actually, y'all know Trump, my man. Come on, bro. That's my man. Yo. Third term Trump. Third term Trump. Hey, listen. I think Trump and Obama should battle it out. We got to do one little special election. Biden, he about to be dead. We need Trump versus Obama. I fuck with both. For the third term for either of them. I don't know. I'm going to have to go with Trump with it. But I love Obama too. Obama's dope. But if it's two presidents who deserve a third term, it's either Obama or Trump. So you saying, yo, chat, could y'all send me this clip? Grant, everybody, I need this clip everywhere. Because all of these little Sambo, woke niggas, like the Martin Lamar Hill niggas, they were all like, look at Akademiks sitting with Donald Trump's son. I was planting a scene in his ear. Gang, I told y'all, when I met Donald Trump at UFC and I dapped him up and I said, hey, listen, I'm one of the biggest media outlets. And I think his team had told him about it because we were supposed to do a dinner one time. He said, hey, you know, I do a lot for the hip hop community. You know what he told me? He says, I brought ASAP Rocky back home. I freed Kodak Black and I freed Lil Wayne. And I said, sir, thank you. We appreciate you. And I shook his hand. Gang, you got it. All y'all niggas who claim y'all too, like, y'all up like a dead nigga's ass because Biden dead at this point. That y'all don't want to fuck with Trump? Watch what my man's is doing. YB. Yo, YB. We coming to Great Nigga Mountain. It's going to be lit. Chat. Watch the whole media ignore it. All of these bum ass niggas in media, when they had Biden, they couldn't get a sit down with Biden. They couldn't find his crack smoking son. They couldn't get shit going on. Big Act. Make the moves happen. By the way, another thing. I'm going to keep it a bean. This is why you say, yo, Big W to Rumble. My man who owns Rumble, Chris Pavlovsky, he owns Rumble. He's the nigga who put me with him. Facts. Remember when I went to Rumble? Yo, hip-hop is going all right. That's what they said. All these bitch-ass, pussy-ass niggas. Hip-hop is going all right. One of the biggest media. Look what happened. Larry Hoover coming home because of Big DT, nigga. Big 47. Big 45. Biden, all he did was pardon his crack-smoking son. I don't get no fucking credit out here, man. When I get on stream, I'm gonna call YB. We're gonna have a good time, man. But y'all niggas, man, they whisper your accomplishments, they shout your failures.
Arguing, hey, this is a prop. That's their actual argument in court. He's been sitting on federal house arrest for 2.5 years. And, you know, he got picked up today. Something.
This, by the way, chat. Y'all talk about ain't nobody more cultural than me. Man, fuck these other media niggas, man. Nigga, it's top one, nigga. It's only me, nigga. It's me, nigga. When I get my opportunity to sit in front of a nigga who has some power, I advocate for these. Yo, what's up with YB? What's up with... watch the whole interview. I'm talking about our shit. By the way, I got a shout out to my man Don Jr. We follow each other. That's gang. It's gang in him. He invited me to come hunting. Okay? You know what I mean? I know he got Secret Service. I ain't know if I could bring my guns. I might have to just go with whatever they approve. But... And his wife was so gracious. She flew to her. She showed me her closet. Oh my God, I've never seen a closet like that. Oh my God, she's amazing. And she made me a drink too. Oh, she's good. I love her. Amazing. The first thing she told me, she was like, did you know, because she used to work on Fox. She said, you know Kendrick Lamar put me on a song? I was like, what? Apparently Kendrick's not. It doesn't matter. Anyway, the point is this. As much as they get at Big Act, they never say when Act got his chance to sit down with the president's son, Act was advocating for the niggas. He was advocating for who he listens to. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. Chat. I promise y'all. I wish Tory had federal charges. He would have got pardoned today. I promise y'all. The president of the United States only has power to pardon people from federal charges. I'm telling you, Tory would have got pardoned today. Tory would have gotten pardoned today. But it's a state charge, and the guy politically, he's one of them woke Twitter motherfuckers who is never going to pardon Tory. But if Tory's case was a Fed case, I guarantee you today you would see Tory, whether he walks out or wheels out on a fucking gurney, he would have been free. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. And it's all good. You know, let me tell you this. You got to use some of these guys, you got to use their ear. It's power in their ear. Yo, we had dinner in Mar-a-Lago that day. And Don Jr. says to me, because he told me, they giving a tour, they say, yo, his father, Trump, just had like this crazy ass, like, whatever, it was like some donation shit. And, you know, they're very humble people. They said, tell me about your world. And they're telling me about all this crazy stuff going on in politics, Secret Service. They're telling me about, other countries have money on their head. I'm like, this is wild. And when they say, tell me about your world, you know what I started telling them? Okay, let me break down hip-hop. I started telling them about Drake and Kendrick. I started breaking down some of the people I listen to. I advocate for niggas who I fuck with. So I don't know if they ever heard about NBA Youngboy, but they sure heard about it from me. And I'm pretty sure other people. I'm sure other people too. But an NBA Youngboy, a Kodak Black, and, you know, again, let me go look at the list of pardons here. Trump pardon. Yo, I'm going to be honest with you, man. By the way, I think the next wave of pardons, I think SBF might get one. I ain't going to hold you. Just being honest. Where's the list? Somebody send me the list. Yo, we need third term Trump. Third term Trump. Third term Trump. Third term Trump. That's a fact. It says the White House officials tells Fox the President of the United States has signed a pardon for John G. Rowland, a former governor of Connecticut. Kentrell Golden, NBA Youngboy. You know what that means? If he don't got state charges or he's not a state felon, YB could own a gun. YB could go cop a gun right now. You feel me? YB could legally start toting again. He could legally start toting again. If he don't got, he's not a felon on the state level, right? Well, but I think this pardon is like all throughout, ain't it? I don't know. Anyway, a New York rep. Okay, we don't know these people. We don't know. I think I've heard Bazin before. Todd and Chris Julie. This was the first one we heard because I think their daughter spilled the beans. And then they have commuted the sentence of Larry Hoover. Oh my God. Larry Hoover is walking. Oh my God. So for sure, Kanye coming back. I've been waiting until Kanye come out of Spain. I heard he's coming back soon. If you on Rumble and Kick, you know what I'm talking about. But for sure, he's coming back. Oh shit. All right. Let me go to. Free Larry Hoover isn't needed anymore because President Trump and Alice Johnson freed him. Full pardon. Oh, here we go. Oh, there we go. Ooh. Ooh, okay.
Inspiration to people. And we're going to be listening to your recommendation on pardons. You're going to go over and she's going to be my pardon czar. Okay?
You see, there's a lot of you niggas or Negroes that don't like to read, and y'all are so politicized. Y'all think that you only believe in government when it's the party you like. If it's the Democrats, you don't matter who the president is. You better start rocking. Hey, shout out to this woman. If she has the ear of Trump, big W. I'm finna follow her, cause I love indictment music, and I might need to pitch something about Dirk. I might need to pitch some shit about Dirk. I don't think my nigga Dirk did no shit. I might have to start putting it in somebody's ear. You know, the next interview I'm doing with Donald Trump or Donald Trump Jr., You know I'm throwing the Dirk thing in there. We got to get my boy a pardon. You see these other niggas, uneducated, bum-ass idiots, all they do is just talk. They ain't going to do nothing. When I get the ear of her or Trump, Dirk, you up next. You up next, gang. Trust. You up next. You up next, gang. You up next. Trust. All right, so okay. So she got his ear. Shout out to my nigga Bradford Cohen. I would give you some shit. I would give you some shit about that, but I won't. Okay. All right. This is dope. This is dope. This is dope. Holy shit. Holy shit. Let me just post this real quick, man. Let me post this real quick. My bad, chat. My bad, chat. By the way, chat, I'm no way saying that I'm the reason why these people got pardoned or, even YB specifically. I'm just saying I got a lot of people who got at me for going to Rumble. Without me going to Rumble, I don't meet the president's son. I don't meet the president. Without me going to Rumble, this is WR Block. I don't meet him. Without me, when I hear him say, I freed Kodak, Wayne, and I brought ASAP home. Without that, we don't have further communications about me doing interviews or streams or whatever. Without that, I know what demographic they're trying to get to. We understand it. Sometimes, some people, they will be like, oh, you're being used. Well, you got to realize sometimes if you're not being used, you're useless. So we gonna throw our agenda in there. Hey, we need this. Bro, could you look into this? Bro, this is what we need. Now, granted, I understand like a pardon, you might be like, yo, that's really individualized. I get it. But you got to be in these people's earshot to mention a problem. It could be a societal problem. Yo, listen, man, I need to fix this shit. Yo, could y'all try to address the shit in Chicago? Like, whatever. I don't care what it is. There's certain other motherfuckers who they're like, nah, man, we just going to sit on Twitter and on our podcast and say, man, Trump is trash. He's trying to be a dictator. All right, shut your pussy ass up. Listen, man, we got to get on to some real shit. You feel what I'm saying? All right, I posted that. Now let me post this other shit real quick. And then we're back to the stream. Holy. Ye has already responded. Look at my boy Ye, man. Yeah. Hold on. My bad. I'm posting on Instagram. All right. Oh yeah, and I gotta post my clip. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm on some Instagram shit right now. I know. I'm on some Instagram shit right now. I know. I'm sorry. They ain't gonna give me my credit, so I gotta take my credit. They ain't gonna give me my credit, so I gotta take my credit, chat.
Guy who's a beloved, he's
They ain't gonna give me my credit, chat, so I gotta take it. They're not gonna give me my credit, so I definitely gotta take it.
a guy.
Make sure is this. I bet got it. Yo, you should have put the whole clip up, my boy who sent me this. You should put my whole clip up. This is another reason I can't be beefing no retarded nigga named Absol, man.
You know, he's
Yeah, here we go. My bad, chat.
A lot of people are asking. There's a guy who's a beloved.
Yeah, we don't get to the Diddy trial. Let me see, what time is it right now? Oh, it's only 2 hours, and we good. My bad. I hate posting when I'm on here, cause like y'all watching me say nothing. I'm sorry, but I gotta do it. This is a big moment. I'm sorry. This is a big moment, chat. It's a big moment for us.
A lot of people are.
You got a lot of waste man podcasters. They don't do a motherfucking thing.
A lot of people.
Here we go. Oh, and I got woman posts. I got to do Larry Hoover shit. My bad. And then we're back.
I'm coming on TikTok to address the Bossman situation.
Yo, the BotiBoy is saying that they lied on Bossman D-Lo now. This is crazy, bro. Bossman D-Lo must have did some Diddy shit and blew up the car. I ain't gonna lie, that's the only way you can send niggas a message. You gotta blow up a nigga car, bro. All right, here we go. Got that, got that, got that, got that. All right. And then... All right, here we go. All right. Sorry, chat. Anyway, let me keep...
It happened at his house, I guess. You know, they raided it and they picked him up. And now everyone's saying you got to ask Donald Trump Jr. if Trump gets back in office and this guy's locked up, we got to throw him to the top of the party. Come on.
Listen. Hey,
gotta throw my guy. That's my boy. He got to go to the top of the party list. Chat, that's called holding your homies down. Pause. Oh, did he? Now, I ain't gonna lie. I told you Dirk's next on the list. I'm gonna chill off the Diddy shit. I'm not bringing that up. They'll be like, yo, while we're having dinner, eating some croutons or whatever the fuck. You know, this money's expensive. We're eating croutons today. Okay. Could you just pardon Diddy? They might be like, nigga, if you don't get your baby oil loving ass on out of here, get the fuck out of here, nigga.
Guy we discussed
I'm a
this
second
yesterday. I know you are too. I also know that the other president's son lied on his gun form, which is a federal offense.
Yes.
There's cocaine on the gun case, so you can't have drugs and be an active user while also on that.
True.
And, you know, they're kind of sort of going after him with at this thing, but it's not like if there's no proof and it's a prop, that seems like total bullshit. So, you know, and again, I know that I wouldn't get any benefit of the doubt when it comes to this government and this DOJ either. So, like, I take that one pretty seriously because there's someone who has a lot of guns and loves shooting and does all that stuff.
The night before, he sat and told me a story about his favorite thing to do is hunt and shoot guns. He's huge on Second Amendment rights. He loves guns. I said, I bet. I'm going to ask you this while we live. Hey, you know, we needed this, chat. That was good.
I think when they abuse that and they try to push, you know, down the Second Amendment, I think I have a real problem with that. I'd have to get into the details because I'm sure there's another side of a story that maybe I'm not hearing.
They raided his, like, I'll be fair, they raided his house saying that he he was doing drugs while on house arrest. His argument is that, hey, listen, you've had me in the house for 2.5 years. Mentally, it's affected me. I have these prescribed. There's
Big W. Okay, chat. All right. We're gonna get a little bit more into that, but we gotta finish like some of this Diddy stuff. Oh my God, damn! I didn't even think I started late today. I didn't even think that we were gonna turn into all this. All right, cool. Let's go. All right, bet. All right. Okay, cool. So they instructed jurors, yo, don't read into anything with the fingerprints or the fingerprint card missing. Blah blah blah. Now they start. They said, you interview the owner of the Porsche. It says Scott Miscuddy. That's Kid Cudi. It says, they said yes. It said, do you reach out to others? I reach out to an assistant. Capricorn, there's an objection. Then they said, yes, Capricorn Clark and Cassie Ventura. Did Capricorn respond? No. So AUSA says, how'd you reach out to Cassie? I wasn't able to buy a phone, but I tried through a family member. Did you reach her? Never. So Capricorn nor Cassie ever responded. Were charges brought? No, but I never closed the case. It was listed as inactive, and they say nothing further. Cross-examination. Agnifilo says, there was DNA hit on the glass bottle for female DNA, right? Says yes. It says, do you remember when the results came back? Agnifilo says maybe 6 months. Agnifilo says there was a test on the bottle. Was it important? Says yes. Agnifilo says, what does it mean partial DNA female? Jimenez says, I have no idea. I was told if we had a suspect, we could test against it. Agnifilo says, any other DNA on the bottle? AUSA says objection, just as rephrased. DX852, that's an exhibit, just for the witness. Says that's a glove, right? Jimenez says yes. Niflo says, did you find another glove? He says no. He said, did you test the glove for DNA? He says no. He said, I understand it belonged to the owner. I guess Kid Cudi. It was a driving glove. Niflo says, your premise was that the Molotov cocktail was dropped. Did you think the person who dropped it may have worn a glove? Jimenez says perhaps. Ignifilo says, so it would have been hot, right? Jimenez says only the wick. You know what Ignifilo is trying to paint is that couldn't Kid Cudi have done this shit himself? Because they found a glove at the scene, and they're like, okay, whose glove was it? They're saying it was Kid Cudi, and they're saying, wouldn't you wear a glove to do something like this? And so anyway, Ignifilo says the damage, it's on both sides of the bottle, right? Says, looks like it. Did Miss Scuddy have more than one Porsche? Says, I think he had a second one in the garage. Now you know what they're pointing at. Maybe Kid Cudi did this to insurance fraud, right? It says, why isn't it in your report that he has another Porsche? It says, it was not involved. Ignifilo says, you were unable to reach Capricorn Clark or Cassie, right? When did you reach out? Jimenez says, in the first few weeks. Ignifilo says, are you sure? Tell us everything about these calls. Jimenez says, I believe Capricorn's brother answered and we disagreed. Ignifilo says, and once Kid Cudi told you it was his glove, you didn't investigate the glove anymore, right? Says, I did not. Ignifilo says nothing further. So they're basically saying maybe Kid Cudi did it or Kid Cudi threw them off the scent by saying, oh, that's my glove. So they stopped looking into the glove. But it's kind of like baked in the cake, like, yo, so somebody throws his bottle in, it's broken on both sides. It had some heat or it was fire in it, even though the detective is saying, well, the bottle probably wasn't hot itself, only the wick. But still, they're like, the glove. Anyway. It says redirect. It says, when did you speak with Kid Cudi? It says the same day. AUSA says nothing further. That was a weak redirect. Okay. There's no recross. The judge says next witness. It says the government calls Deontay not Nash. Are you under subpoena? Nash says yes. AUSA says, do you want to be here? He says, hell no. AUSA says, what's your work? He says, I'm a celebrity stylist. AUSA says, what about in 2008? I was doing it for Puff and Cassie. AUSA says, how'd you get hired to work for them? Nash says, through a Craigslist ad for Bad Boy Entertainment. AUSA says, this photo, is it a fair and accurate portrayal of how you looked at the time? Nash says, not even close. AUSA says, is it a glamour photo? It's like, yes, I look amazing. Okay. AUSA says, how often would you witness Mr. Combs and Ventura interact? Nash says, at least once a week. What did you see Mr. Combs call or hear Mr. Combs call Miss Ventura? So I heard he called her bitch, hoe, CC, baby girl, slut. He would call her an outright hoe, a slut. Anyway, he says, how did she react? He says, she was always sad. AUSA says, did Combs make threats? Yeah. He said he would beat her ass. And then he would send sex tapes. AUSA says, How often would he say he would beat her ass? He said, quite a few. It drove her crazy. She would be super emotional. She might stay in the house for days. AUSA says, how often did Mr. Combs say you could not go out without his permission? Nash says twice. The first time we went to a gay club with Kyle and Adrian. Then we went to her LA apartment. Puff called and told her she better bring her ass to his house. She panicked. AUSA says, what did you understand Mr. Combs was saying? Donaldson says, objection. Judge says overruled. It says, she packed her stuff. She went to her house. AUSA says, did you attend the Vanity Fair party? He says, yes, it was a Oscars after party in 2014 with Cassie and Puff. They were both there. AUSA says, how did she look? She looked bomb. Her hair was, you can tell this nigga gay. Donaldson says, objection. Judge says overruled. Her hair was long. Puff picked me up and threatened me. I pinned her hair up. AUSA says, did she record music? Says, very often. What was your role? He says, I helped pick out songs. I probably should have been called an he was about to say executive producer. Donaldson says, objection. Judge says sustained. AUSA says her mixtape, was it ever sold? Nash says no. It was put out for free. But it did well. It was a top download. Comey, which is, I guess now they're naming the AUSA, Maureen Comey. How much of her music was released? He says, I'm being generous. I'll probably say 10%. AUSA says, I think that would be a good place to break. The judge says, you may break. Jurors leave. Then Nash says, the judge says, Miss Comey, what he'll say about 2013, it's not about the tapes, right? And they says no. I don't know what tapes that is. So they break. They break for lunch. Let me play our normal people, Lauren Conlin. Let's just play her morning session. Maybe she only did one. No, I think she probably did two, right? No, she only did one. Here we go.
Is day 11, week 3 of United States versus Sean Combs. Right off the bat, I want to let you all know that the defense moved for a mistrial today. It was denied, but it got very spicy in the courtroom. But I'll get there. I'll tell you exactly what happened. But first, let me start with the first witness of the day, someone from the LAPD, a police officer named Christopher Ignacio, 16-year vet. He was working in December 2011 when he was called to Kid Cudi's house for a possible break-in at 8:20 a.m. That's when he was called from dispatch, or he received this call. So he goes there with his partner, lights and sirens on, just in case he doesn't know what's going on. He says that when he pulls up to the house, outside of the house is a black Escalade. And he said he looked at the license plate and he made sure to memorize it. He actually recited it for us on the stand. He testified that he went inside the house. You know, he saw the presents on the table, a watch, some purses. He said that 2 other detectives showed up and they searched the house. Nothing was missing, nothing was broken, and they wrote up a report. He said when he got back outside, he saw the same black Escalade come down a hill. And, he also testified, just going back, after the black Cadillac, or the Escalade, it's a Cadillac Escalade, just kidding. I'll refer to it as both. After the Cadillac drove away, he said that the homeowner's black Porsche pulled up, which we know was Kid Cudi. So, that was pretty much it was a very short, direct, but during cross-examination, which was done by Brian Steele, and by the way, he has really good pace, Brian Steele. He just kind of gets it done. He said, did you see at any point the Escalade and the Porsche next to each other? Like, did you see the Porsche pull up next to the Escalade? And the police officer said no. And he said, so did you see a chase? Did you see the Escalade chase the Porsche up a hill? And he said no, because that's what we heard yesterday from Capricorn Clark. And then, he kind of said, okay, so you wrote this report, you're very detailed, you just told us the license plate number. Did the homeowner share with you anything about a gun, that somebody who broke into his house might have a gun? And he said no. So that was a moment. He said, all right, so, if he didn't testify that there was a gun, like, was it a burglary? What was it? And he kind of just said they wrote a trespassing report. He did say that Kid Cudi appeared flustered, and another point of contention, or I guess trying to discredit Capricorn Clark, was the timing, since they were called to the house at 8:20. I think she said it was somewhere between 6 and 7 a.m. So I think they wanted to point out that discrepancy. But then we got to the arson investigator, and his name is Jimenez. and Lance Jimenez, excuse me. And he's a 22-year vet with the LA Fire Department. And essentially an arson investigator is like a detective for the fire department. So this is actually where the mistrial comes in. So he was discussing the fact that he was called to the residence of Kid Cudi in Hollywood Hills after around 11 a.m. after the fire department got there because they were going to do an investigation. So we were shown pictures of the car, where it was parked in the driveway, evidence photos, and all of that jazz. Now, the driveway of Kid Cudi's house was really long, and I was surprised to see that the car was parked right in front of the garage, which was closed, and there was 2 other cars parked behind it. So what Jimenez testified was that, his opinion as an expert was that somebody cut the top of the car and dropped in this Molotov cocktail, which, which by the way, was in an old English bottle. And he said that there was a silk scarf used. And so he believes that this is why the Molotov cocktail didn't really explode properly, because he said, there was damage to the car, obviously, but it was minimal damage. And he thinks it's because of the scarf. And if it actually did explode and go off, it could have done a lot more damage and even possibly, reach the house. Now, they were discussing evidence getting tested and all that stuff, and how, he sent it off, but he didn't really know that much about the DNA evidence that was retrieved. He said that he knew that there were partial female fingerprints taken from the Old English bottle, and he also said that he spoke to Kid Cudi, and Kid Cudi gave him some names to call, just people who might know things, and he gave him the names of Capricorn Clark and Cassie Ventura. And the defense said, well, did you call these women essentially after you found out there was female DNA on the bottle? And he said that he didn't know. But Cassie did not answer, and obviously Capricorn didn't answer. He also stated that Capricorn's brother kind of threatened him on the phone when he called a few times trying to reach her. And he also said, and this is Lance Jimenez, he said that he actually even contacted Cassie's father, who was a firefighter, who said, okay, I'll try to get in touch with Cassie. Never did. So they also, the LAPD, I guess this is where I'm going with the mistrial, they were able to do a print card, is what it was called, where they took fingerprints off of his door from this trespassing incident, and they were trying to lift other fingerprints off of the bottle, of some of the evidence that they found. And so it turns out this print card, the government pointed out that it was destroyed in August of 2012. And it wasn't destroyed at the directive of Jimenez. It was destroyed by somebody in the LAPD. And the government went on to say, did you authorize this card to be destroyed? And he said no. And then they said,
Chat, we're playing this to, again, me reading the tweets, I love doing it, but we don't have a realistic idea of what is being said and how it's being said in court. These people are in court. So I know y'all might think I'm just like playing a recap of what I just read. I'm not. I'm trying to see if maybe I read something in a way that wasn't a big deal, or I'm looking too much into it, or maybe I missed a moment. These people are in court. This is federal court, people. There's no cameras. There's no, okay, we could all go play that moment and clip it. It doesn't happen. So we're really relying on these people for us to get a good understanding of what's happening, that we could make up our minds and see how this is going, right?
Was it unusual for something like this to happen, or this card to be destroyed? And then there was an objection. It was sustained, and we took a break. But what happened was the defense said that during jury selection, there was concerns from the jury that Sean Combs and other celebrities can buy their way out of these situations. So the defense was saying that the government was kind of purposely planting this and using lines of questioning, like they were, to infer that he paid for someone in the LAPD to destroy this evidence. And when they went to move for a mistrial, they're just kind of like, how can they unhear that? That's going to be in their minds. The government said that, that there was no prejudice there. We weren't doing that, quote, on purpose. What did they say? Yes. So basically the judge denied the mistrial because the defense did not object until the last question. And I wish I wrote down the other questions. I'll have to refer to the transcript. But then there was a really spicy moment because Alexandra Shapiro, Diddy's attorney, said, well, then Judge, I want you to tell the jury that they should disregard the government's improper questions and obviously the answers. And then the government's like, you don't refer to us as being improper. That's not going to look good. That's not cool. And essentially the judge said, okay, I'm not going to say that you guys are improper, but what I will say is please disregard the questions and the answers. They have no bearing on the case. So he did tell the jury that, they finished up the.
Okay, she's pretty much saying what we kind of already know. All right, I'll go to logic, and then this is the same rounds we normally do, chat. This is the same rounds we normally do, right? It looked like, was there only morning coverage? Because I don't see any evening coverage at all.
When a lot of folks talk about Diddy trial, they talk about what they perceive to be government corruption. Well, government corruption was on the docket today, this morning, day 11, but it was brought up by the government, and their inquiry in that direction led the defense to be asking the judge to grant them a mistrial. I'm Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. I am down in Southern District of New York every single day, dropping 2 vids a day, covering this trial and giving you legal perspective as I am a New York litigator who has practiced in this very courthouse. Now this morning we heard testimony from first one of the police officers who arrived on the scene of Kid Cudi's house the day that he reported a break-in, which testimony has been brought forward from Cassie Ventura, Capricorn Clark, and Kid Cudi to imply that Diddy and his associate, his bodyguard by the name of Ruben, were the ones who went into his house. Later, days later, when his vehicle was struck by an arsonist, what he called a Molotov cocktail, that led to an arson investigation. And the second witness we had on the stand today was Lance Jimenez, who was the lead arson investigator and looked into the circumstances surrounding it. Now, how did government corruption come up? During the course of his direct testimony, Mr. Jimenez was testifying about the fact that at a certain point he was trying to go to the police to get fingerprint cards from the break-in, try and find the connection there. And that when he searched with the LAPD, the fingerprint cards were missing. He was asked whether or not that was usual. And at that point in time, there was an objection from the defense. And a sidebar, they sent out the jury, and there was a long back and forth. The obvious implication that the government wanted the jury to conclude, at least in the opinion of the defense, and between you and me, I would agree with the defense on this. They wanted the jury to think that Diddy was responsible, or some persons working in connection with Diddy were responsible for having those fingerprint cards removed from the police records. Now, that's obviously a very serious implication, and the Tenny Garagos, who raised the motion for a mistrial, said that the reason they walked down this road was specifically to plant this seed, that he's got connections and that he's trying to he controls the government, and either through bribery, friendship, or some connections or some other basis that he got police officers to destroy the fingerprint records that were taken from Kid Cudi's door when they conducted the police investigation after the break-in in order to help protect him. Now, the reason that you would think that this would be potentially relevant is because it could lead to obstruction, which would support the RICO charges, and in that sense, it could be relevant. At the same time, seeing as how there's never been any implications or evidence put forward to say that Diddy had any sort of connection with it, it is very prejudicial. And Tenny Garagos for the defense raised the point that at this point, you've now planted.
So the Diddy and Cassie situation has been getting freakier and freakier by the day. The more and more I hear about these allegations, Diddy is a freaky man, the king of the freak offs. And Cassie, you feel me? She was young, vulnerable. But like what Axe said, she could have left. Like, Diddy was not holding her. Well, this is what's hard for me. Allegedly, Diddy wasn't holding her hostage, but she said on the video that came out in the hotel where he hit her over and drug her back, she was trying to leave one of the freak offs. And Diddy said, "Oh no, you're not gonna leave the freak offs. You gotta, wait till the dude, bust a nut, allegedly, then all over you, then scrape it off, go in the other room and rub it on my nipples." That's what he wanted. It sounds so crazy to say, but that's what Diddy wanted. Like, we seen him in the robe. I thought he was just fresh out the shower, but allegedly he was probably butt naked. I'm surprised there was no baby oil on her or him, or she wiped it off. That's why he was so mad. It was no baby oil on. Hey man, I genuinely feel bad for Cassie. I feel bad for her husband too, because he has to be in court and he's listening to all these things. And I don't really think Cassie's lying about anything. Like, Cassie just seems like a nice girl, probably like gentle, innocent, like, and she just wanted a career. Like, man, I'm struggling here because I want to be very, very honest about everything, like my point of view. I don't think Diddy was the best of best people, and I think everything he did to Cassie was wrong, and it was definitely manipulative and all that stuff. But like, is it sex trafficking though? Like, this is what he's charged for. Like, domestic violence, yes. Assault, yes. Like, probably a bunch of other crazy stuff, yes. But sex trafficking, bro, I don't know if you could say he was sex trafficking. But it's only day 2 of the trial. And I'm gonna be very, very unbiased about every single thing I say. It's day 2 of the trial. Diddy is he's there every day. They say that he's looking white as hell, he's gray as hell. He's, you feel me? They said he was looking at Cassie the whole time. But day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe 2 weeks later, there might be someone else taking the stand, and we don't know how that's gonna go. Maybe like 3 days later, there's gonna be a new person taking the stand, and they just expose everything about Diddy. Like, we don't know fully everything Diddy's done yet. Like, there might have been men that he was having free calls with. Like, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Like, Act was the line about what he said. Diddy should just came out and said that he was a flexible, bro. He should just said he was bisexual, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lie. And what Act said, bro, all these rappers gotta come out who was around Diddy, like really, really hung around Diddy and was like really cool with him. They need to come out and like, yeah, bro. You gotta defend yourself, your integrity. You feel me? But your boy Big Act News. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And do you feel like Diddy's innocent, or do you feel like he's guilty? And we're talking about sex trafficking. Like, we're not talking about is he a good person or not. Do you think he's guilty of sex trafficking, Cassie? It's your boy Big Act News, and I'm out.